Hello, fellow mech warriors, Mage Leader here. It's been a little while since my last entry in the Battlemech primer. Sadly, there are times where I have to take a break from giving lessons and do actual mercenary work. Those HPG bills aren't going to pay themselves after all. For the past few months, I've been gallivanting around the inner sphere, picking up contracts, making fat stacks of C-bills, and then promptly sinking all of it into mech and computer repair. But despite the system's failures and jump ship malfunctions, I've returned to offer a brief overview of yet another Battlemech. Today we'll be taking a look at a mech that many of you have probably killed by the dozens already. Today we're talking about the Commando. The Commando was a revolutionary design when it was first produced. Up until its release, Battlemechs were primarily designed to be big, stompy, and covered with as many heavy weapons as possible. However, in a moment of ironic brilliance, the Lyran Commonwealth of all places created a new type of war machine, the light mech. In 2463, Coventry Metalworks produced the Commando, a battle mech that weighed only 25 tons and was armed with nothing but a large laser. When it first rolled out, the other great houses pointed and laughed at House Steiner's obvious folly. Surely such a tiny machine couldn't hope to stand against the kinds of mechs that the others were fielding at the time. But the Commando had a few surprises up its sleeve. In 2475, the Lyran Commonwealth controlled a little planet called Knox, a place they were exploiting for its deposits of valuable gemstones. The Draconis Combine invaded Knox with their newly created Battlemech armies, and the world became the site of the Inner Sphere's first ever large-scale mech battle. Here the Commando would be tested in a true David and Goliath scenario. Kurita fielded their latest and greatest machine, the Gladiator, a 55-ton machine with superior armor and firepower. The Gladiators and Commandos met on the field of battle, and what happened next would stun everyone. The Commandos moved at speeds the Gladiators could only dream of. They zipped through the Kuritan battle lines like angry hornets, ganging up on shared targets, hitting them hard, then fading back before they could retaliate. They ran faster than the Gladiators could track, and their speed combined with their small size made them nearly impossible to hit. The Kuritan forces were decimated by the armies of House Steiner in one of the most decisive victories they would ever see. As the Draconis Combine crawled away from Knox with their tails between their legs, the Inner Sphere sat up and took notice. The concept of the light mech had proven itself, and soon Coventry Metalworks was being offered contracts from nearly every other great house. House Steiner, however, knew that they were onto something special, and so they hoarded the design for themselves, eager to keep everything in-house. After all, if this spunky little mech could kick Kurita's ass, the last thing they wanted was for Kurita to start building commandos of their own. For centuries, the Commando was produced exclusively within the Lyran Commonwealth, and the only hope anyone had of acquiring one for themselves was through salvage or aftermarket sales. However, all this protective behavior would soon be rendered pointless, as the Commando's dominance was short-lived. Other light mech designs soon followed, machines that could run faster, hit harder, offer better protection, and even utilize jump jets for superior mobility. Within a decade, the COM-1A was obsolete, and an update was sorely needed. So in 2486, the default configuration of the Commando was changed to the COM-2D. This improved Commando was armed with a medium laser, an SRM-6, and an SRM-4. This increased its damage potential and allowed the design to stay relevant, though it would never again inspire the same awe that it had after the Battle of Knox. The design was a proof of concept, a prototype, and much like the Mackie before it, technology soon left it behind. So, what's wrong with the Commando? Well, to understand that, we first need to learn a thing or two about light mechs. Using light mechs properly is a delicate balancing act. They have little firepower and even less protection, so they must find other ways to maximize damage given and minimize damage received. Mechs in the 20-ton range tend to achieve this through mobility, rushing in and out of cover, charging in, then running away. Heavier light mechs tend to keep their distance, sniping at the enemy from afar before moving to a new hiding place. So what approach does the Commando take? Well, it tries its best to use its mobility, but for a light mech, its top speed of 97.2 kph leaves a lot to be desired. It was blindingly fast back in 2475, but nowadays there are medium mechs that could run faster. Slower light mechs tend to use jump jets to augment their mobility, but the Commando has none, which severely limits its options when evading enemy fire. Its weapons are meant for close-range engagement, so sniping from afar is only possible with prohibitively expensive custom variants. Essentially, it's a light mech that lacks the ability to be an effective light mech. So if it's obviously outdated and its design was so savagely protected by House Steiner, why is it in use everywhere today? How does an inferior light mech become so popular? Well, the answer is simple: the Commando is cheap. Despite the best efforts of House Steiner, the design has become prolific. The aftermarket for Commandos is massive, thanks in large part to the incompetence of Lyran generals, leading to large numbers of destroyed and salvaged Battlemechs. Commandos were both constructed and destructed with industrial efficiency, and before long, the Commando was in use by every great house: Star League and later Comstar, mercenary outfits, pirate gangs, local PDFs, and basically anyone who wanted mechs faster than an Irby without breaking the bank. For all its faults, the Commando is a tanker's worst nightmare, and if your enemy isn't fielding Battlemechs, then a lance of Commandos is a force to be reckoned with. As a result, the Commando is a favorite among crime bosses in the Chaos March, as it's cheap enough to be easily maintained with the limited resources of the periphery, and powerful enough to be more than a match for most small-time rival organizations. Any design that's been around for 6 centuries is going to have thousands of variants, and the Commando has been customized to the point of absurdity. Take the COM-4H for example. This crazy thing has 2 medium lasers and 6, count 'em, 6, rocket launcher 15s. While this version has limited staying power, it punches well above its weight and is more than enough to make even the most experienced tank commander shit his pants. The inner sphere is filled with enough Commando variations to make your head spin, so don't hold back when deciding what to equip yours with. Want to strap a rocket booster to its back and turn it into the world's scariest LRM? You go for it. I'm sure it's been tried by someone somewhere. You know who you are. So that's the Commando. It's an obsolete design from a bygone era, a proof of concept. Its usability on the modern battlefield is limited, but that hasn't stopped it from being used anyway. It's readily available, and as everyone knows, even a second-rate mech is better than no mechs at all. Despite its shortcomings, it's managed to stay in use for 600 years, so it must be doing something right. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a comment down below and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Until next time, this is Mage Leader, signing off.